Whenever this girl cries, blue tears flow from her eyes. The emperor was shocked when he heard of this. For 20 years ago, as the old Grand Master lay dying, he left a prophecy. It said, marrying a woman who sheds blue tears as empress would ensure the nation's prosperity for a century. Yet, for the sake of those dying words from the Grand Master, my husband, the emperor, secretly stole the phoenix seal. While I was away visiting the Shi residence, he drafted a decree for my voluntary deposition. I accompanied the emperor to the imperial tombs to pray for blessings. Returning a year later, my phoenix seal had vanished into thin air. The head of the Internal Affairs Bureau knelt before me. Your Grace, 6 months ago, you submitted a petition to step down. 3 days ago, His Majesty issued the decree to crown the new empress, noble consort Yun Jingxian, the daughter of the Minister of Rights. She was brought into the palace by the Empress Dowager due to her auspicious fate. I simply smiled and straightened my sleeves. My voice was eerily calm. Then when must I vacate the palace? Replying to Your Grace, the petition has passed the 6 Ministries' review. It will be proclaimed to the world this afternoon. The upcoming coronation ceremony is set for tomorrow at noon. That night, His Majesty arrived under the moonlight. He placed an exit token on the floor, his face full of grief. Wanlian, my heart only has you. But the Grand Master said, her fate can protect the nation's prosperity. You must consider the greater good. I understand. I performed a formal bow with perfect decorum. For the sake of the empire, and for the sake of the imperial bloodline, I should step down and relinquish my title. Xiao Jingxing looked at me with surprise. He likely didn't expect me to be so submissive. It is good that you think so. He reached out his hand, wanting to pat the back of my hand as he always did. To show comfort, I suddenly took half a step back, avoiding his touch. His hand froze awkwardly in midair. Lianer, I know you feel wronged. You may take all the jewels and fine silks with you. I will not be stingy. The Empress Dowager has arrived. Following the eunuch's announcement, the Empress Dowager, surrounded by her attendants, crossed the threshold of Changle Palace. Wanlian, since you have agreed to step down, I will speak plainly. The Empress Dowager walked to the main seat and sat down. She glanced at my 120 chests of dowry. When you first entered the palace, you replenished the national treasury. Now that you are leaving the palace, you may take those gold and silver jewels. However, the pure gold 9 Peaks token, which now maintains the lifeblood of the treasury circulation, must be left behind. I looked at this most noble mother and son pair of great Liang. I felt only the absurdity of it all. One was the man I had loved for 7 years, and the husband I had supported for 5. The other was the mother-in-law I had served faithfully, attending to her day and night, even with her medicine. They were kicking me out, and yet they wanted to strip me of my last layer of skin. Xiao Jingxing stood by the Empress Dowager's side, his face seemingly full of agony. Wanlian, I do not want you to suffer. You can take all the gold and silver. Enough for several lifetimes of luxury. But the 9 Peaks token concerns the foundation of the state. The border wars are not yet settled. And the treasury is empty. If you take the token, you will throw the people of Great Liang into misery. They used global justice to make demands of me. I slowly raised my head. Smiling, I replied, His Majesty and the Empress Dowager are right. I reached into my sleeve. This is the 9 Peaks token. I held the token in my palm. Since His Majesty and the Empress Dowager desire it, I shall give it to you. Xiao Jingxing was overjoyed. He took a step forward to grab it. I flipped my palm, evading him. However, I have 2 conditions. What conditions? As long as you surrender the token, I will guarantee you a life of comfort. I ignored the Empress Dowager, and stared fixedly at Xiao Jingxing. I want a letter of divorce. Xiao Jingxing took a few steps back in shock. A letter of divorce? Wanlian, I still have you in my heart. I am only deposing the Empress. I never thought of leaving you. I interrupted him. What I want is that from now on, our marriages shall be of no concern to each other. Also, I pointed to the old nannies and maids outside the hall. I want to take all the old servants of my Qin family. Since I am leaving the palace, they naturally should come with me. Hearing this, the Empress Dowager breathed a sigh of relief. I thought it was some impossible condition. I grant it. In the Empress Dowager's eyes, anything placed before power and wealth was worthless. Xiao Jingxing kept looking at me, as if trying to see if I was acting out of spite. But there was nothing. Wanlian, with this letter of divorce, you truly will no longer be mine. I placed the 9 Peaks token gently on the mahogany table. Is this not exactly what you wanted? To have a stable empire, and a beauty in your arms? I am fulfilling your wish. Using this wealth that could rival nations. To trade for my freedom. This is a profitable deal for you, Your Majesty. Xiao Jingxing looked at the token, then at the Empress Dowager's urging eyes. Finally, he wrote, a clean break. Each to find their own joy. As the final stroke was laid, the imperial seal was applied. I briskly snatched the paper, blew the ink dry, folded it carefully, and tucked it into my robe close to my heart. Then I pointed to the token on the table. It is yours now. With that, I turned toward my kneeling old servants. I personally helped up my nanny, Aunt Rong. Let's go home. Xiao Jingxing thought I would make a scene. He thought I'd use the token to threaten him against the new empress. He thought I'd cry and beg him not to abandon me. But I did none of those things. I knelt on the floor, organizing my old belongings. Compared to those gold and silver jewels, the only things I cared about were the items in this camphor-wood chest. Inside were memories from before my marriage, the wedding gown my mother embroidered by hand, and my hand stopped at a sandalwood box. Inside was a double fish jade pendant. My thoughts were uncontrollably pulled back to the winter solstice 7 years ago. 7 years ago, the late emperor believed a rumor and punished him to kneel in the snow at the ancestral temple for 3 days, without a drop of water. I bribed the guards. When I risked my life to sneak in, he was so frozen he barely had a breath left. Jingxing, I cried, unfastening my cloak, wanting to use my body heat to warm his stiff frame. The boy, who was usually afraid of even a common cold, pressed my hand down and tucked it into his own robe. His teeth were chattering. Wanlian, don't cry. This little bit of snow is nothing. When I have won the world, I will use this jade as a betrothal gift. I will never let you suffer a single gust of wind or frost again. Back then, every word of the oath was sincere. I believed him. I truly thought he would be the most unbreakable support of my life, the husband I could trust with my life. Xiao Jingxing, smelling strongly of alcohol, stumbled into the room. Wanlian, are you blaming me? He dismissed everyone. His eyes were red. I had no choice. He sat on the couch opposite me, covering his face with his hands. His voice choked. My mother threatened me with death. The ministers pressured me with the nation's fate. Noble consort Yun is pregnant with a child. The imperial astronomer says she has an auspicious fate. If I didn't do this, my throne would be unstable. He peeked at my reaction through his fingers. Seeing me sitting still, he thought I was angry. So he leaned forward slightly. All urgency. Wanlian, you are the most sensible. You can surely understand my difficulties, right? My heart only has you. The title of empress is just an empty name. As he spoke, he reached out to grab my hand as he always did. A wave of nausea rose in my throat. I reflexively turned away, avoiding him as if he were a serpent. Xiao Jingxing's hand froze in midair. The drunkenness in his eyes mostly dissipated. He looked at me in disbelief. Your Majesty, you are drunk. I stood up with a cold expression and straightened my sleeves. Xiao Jingxing was stunned. His eyes fell on the sandalwood box. Are you not taking this jade pendant? In his view, since I still kept the token of our love, it meant I still had him in my heart. No need. I picked up a damp cloth and wiped my hands, as if I had just touched something filthy. That pendant is an imperial gift. Since I am no longer part of the imperial family, taking it would be against the rules. Xiao Jingxing's face suddenly turned iron blue. Wanlian, this is the token of love I gave you. You said you would treasure it as your life forever. What do you mean by this? Are you trying to draw a clear line between us? You're joking, Your Majesty. I turned back to continue packing the letter of divorce. The 9 Peaks token has already been handed over. Now, everything is clear. I dare not secretly keep imperial objects, lest someone uses it as an excuse later to say I stole palace property. Good. Very good. Xiao Jingxing gritted his teeth. Since you don't want it, then throw it away. I don't care for it either. Today is the coronation ceremony for the new empress, and also the day I, the deposed empress, leave the palace. The nanny sent by the empress dowager held ledgers, checking every single box. They were afraid I would take even a needle or thread from the palace. I turned a blind eye to this, simply directing my old servants to load several sealed camphor-wood chests onto the carriage. Oh, is sister leaving? A seductive voice drifted over. Yun Jingxian, oh, no. She should be called Empress Yun now. She cradled her swollen belly, supported by maids, entering like a star surrounded by moons. She wore the bright red phoenix robe, and the 9 phoenix sun-facing crown that originally belonged to me. She smiled with smug triumph. Xiao Jingxing followed behind her, clad in his bright yellow dragon robe, his expression somewhat complicated, seeing me in plain clothes, without any jewelry or ornaments. Xiao Jingxing's brow furrowed. Why are you dressed so plainly? He seemed to feel a bit guilty. Did I not grant you so many silks and headpieces? Why aren't you wearing any? That's right, sister. His Majesty is so good to you. The things he gave you could buy half the imperial city. If you leave them all behind, won't you be wasting His Majesty's kindness? Those who don't know any better might think His Majesty mistreated you. Her words seemed like advice, but they were actually meant to cut deep. She was showing off her power to me, and also reminding Xiao Jingxing that I didn't appreciate his gifts. I stopped what I was doing, turned around, and gave them a cold glance. Flicking a look at Yun Jingxian, I looked at Xiao Jingxing and stepped aside, revealing what was behind me. Chests were arranged neatly in the hall, all of them open. Inside were jade headpieces, pearls, and gemstones. Everything Xiao Jingxing had rewarded me with over the years. Your Majesty, my voice was clear. These things were granted by Your Majesty to the Empress of Great Liang. Since I am no longer the Empress, they should naturally be returned to their owner, left for the one who truly needs them. As I said this, I gave Yun Jingxian a pointed look. Yun Jingxian's smile froze on her face. Xiao Jingxing's expression was also very ugly. I was truly leaving with nothing. Except for a few boxes of old paintings, my mother's mementos, and my old servants. I took nothing else. Sister is truly noble. Yun Jingxian gritted her teeth, but once sister leaves, I'm afraid you'll never see such wealth and grandeur again. Don't come to regret it. I smiled and ignored her. Closing the last chest, I walked to the center of the hall, facing this Changle palace that had trapped me for 5 years, facing this towering imperial city. I slowly knelt down. Xiao Jingxing thought I was bowing to him. He reflexively straightened his back. A flash of expectation crossed his eyes. He thought I would cry at this moment, that I would beg him to let me stay. However, I was not performing the bow of a subject, nor the bow of a wife. My hands were folded. My forehead touched the ground, as I performed a solemn, grand ritual. The first bow, to bid farewell to the 5 years of youth buried within these red walls. The second bow, to bid farewell to the innocence and folly, for which I once shed blood and tears. The third bow, to bid farewell to the past. From now on, the world is wide, and we have no further connection. The ritual finished, I stood up and patted the dust off my knees. My eyes were clear as water, leaving not a trace of lingering affection. Your Majesty, your Grace, take care. I am no longer your servant. I left without looking back. The carriage was waiting by the palace gate path. Aunt Yin stepped forward to lift the curtain, about to help me into the carriage. Wait. Clattering footsteps surged from the side alleyway. I paused slightly. I didn't need to turn around to know. The voice belonged to Nanny Su, Yun Jingxian's attendant. Why is Lady Chen in such a hurry to leave? Nanny Su brought 4 strong eunuchs and blocked the carriage aggressively. I slowly turned around. Nanny Su, you serve at the Weiyang Palace. What is your mistress doing, wasting your breath here? Nanny Su's face stiffened. Then she sneered, a mere commoner. Yet your tongue is still so sharp. The palace has its rules. Things belonging to the palace. Not even a needle or thread can be taken away. Her eyes scanned me up and down, her voice dripping with sarcasm. The Empress suspects that someone, upon leaving the palace, has hidden imperial property. By palace regulation, not only must we search the carriage, we must also search your person. As soon as she spoke, the guards at the gate all changed their expressions. A body search? Having eunuchs and nannies search the former empress in public? This wasn't a search for items. This was a blatant humiliation to the death. Aunt Yun was shaking with rage. She jumped off the carriage and blocked me behind her. My lady may no longer be empress, but she was still titled a first-rank lady by the late emperor. I'll see who dares to touch her. A lowly old servant dares to shout here? Someone, teach her properly what the palace rules are. As soon as Nanny Su finished speaking, 2 eunuchs rushed forward and pinned Aunt Yun's shoulders tightly from both sides. What are you doing? Let go. Aunt Yun struggled desperately to kneel down. One of the eunuchs kicked Aunt Yun hard in the back of her knees. Crack! Aunt Yun let out a scream of agony. She was forced to her knees in the snow. I tried to rush forward, but was held back firmly by 2 other eunuchs. Nanny Su pulled a mahogany ruler from her sleeve. Since you cannot control the dog by your side, this old servant will control her for you. This stroke is to punish her for offending the empress. The ruler was ruthlessly lashed across Aunt Yun's face. Aunt Yun's head snapped to the side from the blow, half her cheek instantly swelling up. Blood from her lip dripped onto the snow, a piercing bright red. Aunt Yun convulsed in pain. She yelled at me through her muffled pain, "My lady, don't worry about me. Go quickly. Don't be humiliated for my sake. This is baseless. When did Aunt Yun ever offend the empress?" Nanny Li from the Empress Dowager's side has already checked every chest. Does the Empress Dowager's word not count? Nanny Su flicked the blood beads off her ruler and gave me a provocative look. The Empress specifically reported this to the Empress Dowager. I am here by imperial decree. Lady Chen, you needn't be like this. You must remember, this palace is now surnamed Yun, not Chen. If you cooperate with the search, this old thing might suffer a few less blows. Otherwise, she raised the ruler high again. Nanny Su. I forced my way past the eunuchs and rushed toward her. Do you no longer want this hand? Nanny Su's palm was suddenly pierced by a golden hairpin. Blood splattered everywhere. Since this hand doesn't know its place, then I will cripple it for you. Nanny Su fell back in agonizing pain, rolling and howling in the snow. The surrounding eunuchs and guards were stunned by this sudden scene. Each of them stood frozen like wooden statues. Not a single one dared to step forward. Chen Wanlian, are you mad? A furious roar came from behind. Xiao Jingxing rushed over with large strides. Your Majesty. Blood, so much blood. Following him, Yun Jingxian clutched her stomach and collapsed weakly into Xiao Jingxing's arms. Sister, how could she be so cruel to my wet nurse? Today is the grand ceremony. Seeing blood is a grave omen. Xiao Jingxing's face was iron blue. He reached out and gave me a shove. Caught off guard, I stumbled backward, my waist slamming hard against the carriage frame. The pain made me gasp for air. You poisonous woman. Xiao Jingxing pointed at me as he held her. Today is the joyous day for Sienna and me. Must you draw blood to be satisfied? Nanny Sue is Sienner's wet nurse. And you dared to attack her with a hairpin. You are nothing but a common shrew. Someone, call the imperial physician. Stop Nanny Sue's bleeding quickly, he shouted anxiously, while patting Yun Jingxian's back to comfort her. I leaned against the carriage to steady myself, and looked at this man I had loved for 7 years. My hair was messy from the struggle, strands of black hair falling across my face. In his heart, my dignity wasn't even worth that servant's finger. A common shrew. I repeated those 4 words, and suddenly burst into laughter. The laughter grew louder, filled with endless sorrow. Xiao Jingxing, you pushed your wife for a servant? Shut up. Since you signed the letter of divorce, you are no longer my wife. Xiao Jingxing seemed enraged by my laughter. If not for the Chen family's status, I would charge you with assassination right now. Good. Not your wife. I stopped laughing. In that case, I shall give you a clean break. Before I finished speaking, I suddenly turned, and with lightning speed, snatched the sword from the waist of the guard beside me. The cold light of the blade flashed. The ringing of the metal echoed. What are you doing? Xiao Jingxing turned pale with fright, and reflexively shielded Yun Jingxian. I held the sword in reverse, and grabbed my loose, long hair with the other hand. Xiao Jingxing, the empire you wanted, I guarded it for you. The position of empress you wanted, I vacated it for you. Today, I, Wanlian, stand here, severing our ties forever. With a swift stroke, a lock of jet black hair fell softly into the muddy slush, onto the blood-stained snow. One's body, hair, and skin are gifts from one's parents. Today, I cut my hair to sever all ties and affection. From now on, our futures shall have nothing to do with each other. We shall not meet again in this life or the next. Having said that, I threw down the sword in my hand. Without giving him another glance, I turned and leaned down. I used my sleeve to gently wipe the blood from Aunt Yun's mouth. Aunt Yun, let's go home. I helped Aunt Yun into the carriage. Wanlian, he instinctively took a step forward. Your Majesty. Yun Jingxian grabbed his sleeve, weeping like a pear blossom in the rain. Nanny Sue has fainted. Why hasn't the imperial physician arrived yet? My stomach hurts so much. Xiao Jingxing's steps faltered. He looked back at the severed hair. In the end, he was held back by Yun Jingxian's crying. Aunt Yun leaned against the soft cushions, half of her face frighteningly swollen. Are we really out? I took out the ointment I carried with me, and applied it to her wounds bit by bit. We're out. From now on, there is no empress, only Chen Wanlian, and the Chen family. Traveling all the way south, half a month later, the carriage stopped at a Jiangnan ferry crossing. The Chen family was originally the wealthiest in Jiangnan. Since my departure, I did not deliberately hide the news of my return. When the large boat docked, the pier was already crowded with people. Uncles from the clan, cousins, and hundreds of old family servants had all come. There was no pointing or gossiping as I had imagined, nor any disdain for a deposed empress. My eldest uncle, with his silver hair, stood at the very front leaning on a cane. The moment he saw me disembark, tears streamed down his face. It's good that you're back. It's good that you're back. He walked forward tremblingly. Uncle, Wanlian has brought shame to the Chen family. Nonsense. Uncle struck his cane hard on the ground, his voice full of conviction. The daughter of our Chen family is a phoenix raised in luxury and prestige. It's the royal family that lacks the fortune, and that Xiao Jingxing who is blind. Our Chen family can support you, even for a lifetime. We won't suffer that indignity. Let's go home. Surrounded like stars around the moon, I was welcomed back to the Chen family's ancestral home. I took off the phoenix robe, and changed into a soft silk skirt of Jiangnan embroidery. I became myself again, the flamboyant eldest daughter of the Chen family. But the tree seeks peace, yet the wind does not stop. Only a few days after returning home, while I was at the family silk shop, I ran into trouble. A few hoodlums, clearly sent by a rival business, deliberately caused trouble in the shop. Yo, so this is the deposed empress divorced by the emperor? The leader, a scoundrel, had a lewd grin. His eyes wandered shamelessly over my body. I heard you served the emperor in the palace. That taste must have been quite good, eh? Since no one wants you now, why not follow me? I might not have a throne, but this strength of mine. I slammed the abacus in my hand onto the counter. I looked at him coldly. My guards were about to step forward when suddenly a cold glint flashed through the air. Before the scoundrel could react, he was sent flying, crashing into the opposite wall. He spat blood. An unsheathed longsword was pressed against his throat. Who gave you the dog's gall to speak such filth in her presence? I looked up in surprise. There, standing against the light at the door, was a man. He was very tall, with broad shoulders and a narrow waist. He wore ink blue silk robes, and a high-quality jade pendant hung from his waist. Someone in the crowd recognized him. It's the heir of Prince Shennan, General Xiaolingen. Xiaolingen, the one who became famous young, who guarded the southern border for 10 years. The king of hell who struck terror into enemies. What was he doing here? Xiaolingen didn't even glance at the trash on the ground. He turned around, strode toward me, and said, Wanlian. His voice trembled slightly as he called my name. From his robes, He pulled out a neatly folded handkerchief and handed it to me. The handkerchief was so old the edges were frayed. On it was embroidered a crooked lotus flower. This was something from when I was 10 and went to the border, given to a boy in the stables, who was being bullied. I was stunned. Xiaolingyan looked at me, the tips of his ears turning red. I finished my duties at the border. Wanlian, I'm back. Though Xiaolingyan was an iron-blooded general, in front of me, he was just an awkward, love-struck young lad. Knowing I loved the crispy pork from the south of the city, the dignified heir went to wait in line himself. That day, just after I had finished washing up, I saw him rush into the courtyard. Wanlian, eat it while it's hot. I've been keeping it warm in my robes the whole time. It hasn't cooled down a bit. The owner said this gets gamey if it gets cold, and won't taste good. I took the crispy pork, still carrying his body heat. Upon opening the lid, a steaming, milky aroma filled the air. I couldn't help but feel a pang of emotion. During those 5 years in the palace, every gift from Xiao Jingxing was priceless, but they were all cold. Even when the imperial meals were delivered, they often had only a trace of warmth left. No one had ever, for a single bite of food, run across half the city, and used their own body heat to keep it warm. I took a bite. It was sweet but not greasy. The warmth flowed from my throat into my heart. Is it good? Xiaolingyan asked nervously. I looked up and gave him a bright smile. This is the best crispy pork I've ever eaten. Xiaolingyan's face instantly turned crimson. Scratching the back of his head, he grinned like a child who had received candy. Meanwhile, in the imperial palace far away, it was a different scene. Yun Jingxian had specially changed into a moon-white flowing skirt. She wore only a simple white jade hairpin. She had paid a heavy price to find out that His Majesty liked it best when the former empress dressed so simply. His Majesty has arrived. Xiao Jingxing strode in. Yun Jingxian immediately rose, and, imitating my former manner, gave a deep bow. This servant pays her respects to your Majesty. The moment Xiao Jingxing saw her, his steps came to a sudden halt. His gaze fell upon her moon-white skirt, and his brows furrowed deeply. When Wanlian wore these clothes, she looked like a cold, ethereal fairy. But on Yun Jingxian, she looked like a pheasant in crane feathers. It looked awkward no matter how he looked at it. These clothes don't suit you. Xiao Jingxing tugged irritably at his collar. Yun Jingxian's smile froze on her face. Her eyes flashed with venom, but she only responded, yes, I will remember. To save the atmosphere, she quickly pulled Xiao Jingxing down to sit, and personally brewed tea for him. Your Majesty, this is Snowtop cold crisp tea. Please try it. She imitated my technique, but her movements were clumsy. Xiao Jingxing picked up the cup. Just as he took a sip, he suddenly spat the tea out. His tongue was numb from the heat. Are you trying to scald me to death? Xiao Jingxing slammed the cup down. You can't even do such a simple task. Wanlian's tea temperature was always just right. She never made such mistakes. Wanlian again. It was always Wanlian. Yun Jingxian clenched her fingers so hard, her nails were about to break, yet she could only kneel and beg for forgiveness. Xiao Jingxing looked at the weeping woman, and the irritation in his heart grew. Before, when Wanlian was here, Changle Palace was always comfortable. She could always keep up with the conversation. Her vision was never inferior to a man's. I still have memorials to review. You should rest. Xiao Jingxing couldn't stay a moment longer. He brushed his sleeves and left. As if possessed, he unknowingly wandered to Changle Palace. He pushed the door open and entered. Inside, a thin layer of dust had accumulated. He walked to the familiar desk. This was where Wanlian used to sit. He rummaged through the drawers, hoping to find some trace of her. Suddenly, a yellowed old ledger caught his eye. Inside were rows of delicate script. Jingxing wakes early, use light morning incense. Keep his room warm to ward off the cold. Jingxing has been dreaming a lot lately. Light calming incense before bed. But not too strong. His old knee injury hurts in winter. Must sew rabbit fur knee pads for him. Every single word was a testament to her love for him over 7 years. These words were like sharp slaps, striking him across the face. It turned out that what he lost was not just an empress, but the only person who loved him with all her heart. Just as Yun Jingxian reached her 3rd month of being crowned empress, and while the auspicious child in her womb was growing the fastest, a rare, once-in-a-century catastrophic flood, with overwhelming force, swept through Jiangnan and Jiangbei, the 3 wealthiest provinces. Days of torrential rain caused the dams to burst. The flood water swallowed countless villages and cities. Millions of acres of land were submerged into an ocean. Hundreds of thousands lost their families. They were displaced. With famine everywhere, the land was filled with mourning. The disaster was the worst since the country's founding. Urgent reports delivered at top speed flew into the imperial city like snowflakes. The entire court was instantly shaken. Everyone in a state of panic. Previously, the Imperial Observatory had declared, before all officials, the prediction of the Empress's auspicious and matchless destiny, ensuring favorable weather and a century of national prosperity. Now, in the face of this colossal flood, it became a massive and ironic joke. Rumors immediately began to spread among the people. In tea houses and taverns, people whispered that Wanlian was virtuous, yet was forced out on false charges. This was a monumental injustice. The flood was because heaven had been angered. It was a divine punishment. Some bolder individuals even posted notices at the city gates, saying that the current empress, Yun Jingxian, was no auspicious sign. She was a demon queen who brought calamity. As soon as she rose, Daliang suffered this catastrophe. If this demon queen is not deposed, Daliang will eventually be destroyed. These rumors naturally reached the palace. The atmosphere in Huiyang Palace dropped to the freezing point. Yun Jingxian, like a mad shrew, hysterically smashed everything she could reach. Expensive rook-kiln vases, red coral landscapes, and exquisite jade bottles were hurled to the floor, shattered into pieces. Shut up. All of you, shut up. Her hair was disheveled. Her face contorted as she roared. Her nails were split from the force. Whoever dares to call me a disaster star, I will order their tongue to be pulled out, and have them chopped up to feed the dogs. Several young maids knelt on the floor covered in porcelain shards, trembling with fear. They didn't even dare to breathe heavily as their knees and palms were cut by the sharp porcelain. Blood stained their palace skirts, but they didn't dare to move. Nanny Sue, dragging her right hand, that was now wrapped in thick bandages, quickly dismissed the maids. She stepped forward, ignoring the mess, and urged in an anxious voice, "Your Majesty, please calm down. Be careful not to upset the fetus." She led Yun Jingxian to sit down, and poured water, saying, "Don't panic. These rumors among the people are only temporary. They won't amount to anything. As long as His Majesty still believes in your destiny, our position remains as stable as a mountain. Have you forgotten the director of the observatory? Our Yun family spent a fortune, and 2 boxes of gold bars to satisfy him. Besides, we have something on him. He wouldn't dare speak out of turn. But His Majesty hasn't even visited me lately. He won't even step into Huiyang Palace." Yun Jingxian knocked the cup out of Nanny Sue's hand, and cried out in despair and anger. She grabbed Nanny Sue's sleeve tightly. Where was any trace of that gentle manner she displayed before outsiders? She was now filled with a frantic energy. "It's all that Chen Wanlian's fault. That jinx. She's already been kicked out of the palace, yet her presence still lingers to haunt me. If I'd known she was such a disaster on the day she left the palace, I should have sent assassins to ambush her, and ensured she died outside." "Shoo, Your Majesty, watch your words. If such talk reaches His Majesty's ears, it could mean your head." Nanny Sue's face turned pale with fright. She quickly covered Yun Jingxian's mouth, and looked warily toward the door. "What fear?" Yun Jingxian pushed her away roughly. Her eyes became malicious and crazed. "This is Huiyang Palace. This is my territory. What heavenly mandate? What phoenix body? What national fortune? Who in this palace doesn't know that it was just the Yun family to get me into power, using gold and silver to pave a way for me?" She had been driven by jealousy and fear to lose her reason. Gritting her teeth, she began to calculate an even crazier plan. "I am now the rightful empress of Daliang. If all else fails, no, I'll have my father fabricate a charge of treason or plotting rebellion, and issue a decree to raid the Chen family. I'll seize that bitch Wanlian's family property and take all their wealth into my own private treasury. With that money, I'll see if His Majesty will still bother thinking about that penniless bitch." A deafening crash interrupted Yun Jingxian's insane words. The massive screen at the entrance, carved from sandalwood, with the 100 birds pattern, was actually kicked from the outside with thunderous power and knocked over. The heavy screen slammed hard onto the floor, shattering several tiles, and kicking up a cloud of choking dust. As the dust cleared, Xiao Jingxing, his face ashen, like a demon walking out of hell, stood at the doorway. His hands were clenched tightly into fists. Due to extreme anger and shock, his whole body was shaking uncontrollably. His bloodshot eyes stared fixedly at Yun Jingxian. His eyes were filled with murderous rage. Your Majesty." Yun Jingxian and Nanny Sue, the moment they saw him, were frightened nearly to death. Their legs gave way, as if their bones had been removed. They collapsed straight onto the floor covered in porcelain shards. Xiao Jingxing's head was buzzing. What had he just heard? Standing outside the door just now, he had heard every single word of this vicious woman's plan. For the sake of a national fortune, for the sake of that legend of blue tears, he had ungratefully forced away the wife who stayed by him for 7 years, who managed the empire, and who had even shielded him from blades. It turned out the heavenly mandate and the auspicious prophecy, it was all fake. He suddenly recalled how back then, Yun Jingxian and the Empress Dowager invited monks to claim that Wanlian's fate would jinx her husband and children and ruin the royal aura. It was likely the work of the snake-hearted Yun family and the Empress Dowager plotting together. This was a meticulously planned and monumental scam, and he, the Emperor of Daliang, who thought himself wise, had been played like a fool by these women. Because of a ridiculous lie, he had personally destroyed his own home and driven away the only person who truly cared for him. Your Majesty, spare me. Your Majesty, listen to my explanation. It's not what you heard. Yun Jingxian's face was as pale as paper. Ignoring the shards piercing her knees, she crawled over, trying to grab his leg to beg for mercy. Get lost. Don't touch me with your filthy hands. Xiao Jingxing looked at her hypocritical face and felt intense nausea. He suddenly raised his foot and, with all his strength, delivered a merciless kick right into Yun Jingxian's chest. Ah! Yun Jingxian was kicked like a rag doll, flying through the air several meters. Her back slammed against the solid table leg, making a sickening thud. She let out a scream and spat out a large mouthful of blood, staining her moon-white skirt red. For the sake of your family's status, for the position of empress, you dared to conspire to deceive your emperor. You dared to use Daoyang's national fortune and the fate of the empire as a joke. Xiao Jingxing pointed at her, his rage boiling over. He felt a tearing pain in his chest. A sweet taste rose in his throat, the flavor of fresh blood. He suddenly doubled over and spat out a large amount of blood. In this moment, scenes of the day Wanlian left the palace flashed in his mind. She, in her plain clothes, had resolutely drawn the sword and cut off her waterfall of black hair. That final look she gave him. There was no resentment, no pleading. There was only a clarity that saw through it all. A cold silence and undisguised mockery. It turned out that such a brilliant woman had long since seen through the whole conspiracy. She had seen through his stupidity, seen through his hypocrisy and selfishness. She had watched him with cold detachment. All for a lie. She must have found his actions so laughable and so disgusting. How sickening. Your Majesty. The head eunuch heard the commotion and rushed in, horrified by the scene. He turned pale with fright and hurried forward to support him. Xiao Jingxing pushed the eunuch away, stumbling back. He gripped the doorframe tightly to barely support his swaying body and keep from falling. Gasping for breath, he pointed his blood-stained finger at the half-dead Yun Jingxian and issued the coldest decree. Pass on my decree. The Yun clan has deceived the emperor and brought chaos to the harem. Their crimes are unforgivable. Immediately strip her of the empress's gold seal and records. Demote her to a commoner and cast her into the cold palace. Under my orders, no one is allowed to visit her. Let her fend for herself inside. As for this master-corrupting, troublemaking old servant, he gave a cold, dismissive glance at Nanny Sue, who was huddled nearby, trembling, as if he were looking at an ant. Drag her out and flog her to death immediately. Throw her body into the mass grave for the dogs. And, Xiao Jingxing took a deep breath, wiping the blood from the corner of his mouth. A near-manic obsession erupted in his eyes. Call the commanders of the Imperial Guard and the Secret Service to me. Find her at any cost. Even if you have to turn Daliang upside down. You must bring my empress back. Bring Wanlian back to me, safe and sound. The entire palace, due to the emperor's thunderous rage, was plunged into an unprecedented state of anxiety. The servants walked on tiptoe, fearing they would provoke him. After issuing the decree, Xiao Jingxing seemed like a completely obsessed madman who had lost his mind. He wandered like a ghost through Weiyang Palace and Changle Palace, searching frantically. He tried to find even the slightest trace that Wanlian might have left behind, but there was nothing. Wanlian had left cleanly, as if she had never existed in this palace at all. On the edge of despair and collapse, he even disregarded the boundaries of filial piety and forced his way into the Sinaying Palace with armed guards. He broke into the Empress Dowager's residence, facing her son, whose eyes were bloodshot and who looked like a ghost, questioning her with a shrill voice. The Empress Dowager initially tried to keep up appearances and deny it, but when Xiao Jingxing slammed the testimony of the Bureau of Astronomy's director violently against her face, the Empress Dowager's eyes flickered with guilt. Her psychological defenses finally crumbled, and she slumped into her chair, admitting the truth. It turned out that to maintain complete control over the harem, and to promote her own niece, Yun Jingxian, to the position of empress, and even more to use imperial power, to seize the Qin family's wealth, which was greater than a nation's, and even more abundant than the national treasury. She had not only condoned the Yun family's deception, but had also fueled it from behind the scenes, providing them with immense convenience. My emperor, I did all this for your own good. The Empress Dowager wept bitter tears, trying to use their bond as mother and son to mask her greed. The Qin family is too powerful, and Wanlian is not easily controlled. If she had remained empress, she would have become a threat from the maternal clan. Yun Jingxian is one of our own. Only if she gives birth to the crown prince will the Xiao family's rule be secured forever. For my own good. Ha ha ha. What a for my own good. Xiao Jingxing looked at his mother, whose hair was white and face was wrinkled, yet who was still full of calculations. His laugh sounded 100 times more tragic than crying. Mother, stop deceiving yourself. You didn't do it for your son's good. You clearly did it for your own desire to control power, for the insatiable wealth and status of your Yun family. He pointed at the Empress Dowager, his words sharp and filled with pain. Because of your greed, You personally destroyed your son's home. And the only bit of sincerity I had in my life. From now on, hold on to your power. And grow old alone in this desolate Sinaying palace. After saying this, he stumbled out of the Sinaying palace gates. Outside, a torrential rain had begun to fall. The wind howled, swirling fallen leaves through the air. Lightning flashed and thunder roared, as if the sky were about to collapse. Xiao Jingxing didn't let any eunuchs hold an umbrella, nor did he allow any guards to follow him. Like a walking corpse, he let the icy rain mercilessly soak through the bright yellow dragon robe that symbolized his supreme status. Without realizing it, driven by some lingering obsession, he walked to the entrance of the imperial ancestral temple. He pushed open the heavy vermilion doors. Inside, it was cold and dim. On a winter solstice night 7 years ago, because his mother was of humble birth, he had been framed by his brothers. The late emperor had punished him by making him kneel outside this temple, in the snow filled with shards of ice, for 3 days and 3 nights. Without a drop of water, his body was covered in frostbite. His fever wouldn't break, and his consciousness was blurred. He thought that he, the unfavored prince, would die silently and unnoticed in this predatory palace. Just as he closed his eyes in despair, ready to accept death, it was Chen Wanlian, that bold and silly girl, who had just entered the palace. She used her only jewelry to bribe the guards. Risking execution, she snuck into the ancestral temple in the dead of night. She pulled out a steaming hot meat bun, still warm from her body, and forced it into his frozen hands. Disregarding decorum, she unfastened her thick fur cloak and wrapped it tightly around him. While crying, she used her warm little hands to frantically rub his hands, which had turned purple and lost all sensation. Jingxing, don't be afraid. You'll have strength once you eat something. I'm here with you. I won't let you die. Those vows back then were like the winter sun. Every word sincere, deeply branded into his soul. To be bound as husband and wife, with love and no doubt. Wanlian, once I win the world, I will never fail you. That was the promise he gave her. But now? The ancestral temple remained solemn. The ancestral tablets remained cold, enshrined on the high altar. But he had personally lost the girl who was willing to die for him. He lost her with his own hands. With a thud, Xiao Jingxing's knees buckled, and he knelt heavily on the cold tiles of the temple. Wanlian, with trembling hands, he pulled out from his robe a bundle that had been carefully wrapped. It was the lock of severed hair that he had carelessly tossed into the snow at the palace gate. He clutched the hair tightly to his heart, like a lost child, and broke into loud sobs before his ancestors. He cried as if his heart were tearing apart. I was wrong. I was truly wrong. Please come back. He called out again and again to the empty, echoing hall, the sound of his head hitting the floor mingling with the thunder. But no matter how much he kowtowed, or how desperately he cried, the bright girl who would pull him up with pity, who would stuff a warm bun into his mouth and warm his hands, never appeared again. The only response was the pitiless sound of the wind and rain outside, and the dead silence within the vast hall. Just then, a dark shadow, like a ghost, appeared silently inside the hall. He knelt on one knee. It was the Secret Service leader sent to Jiangnan to investigate. The leader's voice carried a hint of hesitation and fear. His head was bowed low. When Xiao Jingxing heard the voice, he suddenly turned around, ignoring the blood on his forehead. As if grabbing onto a final lifeline, he stumbled toward the guard. He grabbed the guard's shoulders and shook them violently. Did you find her? Tell me, where is she? Is she doing well? Is she still angry with me? Is she waiting for me to bring her back from Jiangnan? The guard was shaken so hard he felt his bones would break. He didn't dare look up into the eyes of the emperor who had fallen into madness. He gritted his teeth and braced himself to report truthfully, Your Majesty, we have found Lady Chen. She is living in the old Chen estate in Jiangnan. She is not suffering. She has regained control of all the Chen family's businesses. She currently commands great influence in Jiangnan. The business is thriving. Hearing that she wasn't suffering, Xiao Jingxing felt the weight on his heart lift slightly. He asked eagerly, did she ever mention me? Did she say anything about returning to the capital? Cold sweat broke out on the guard's forehead. His voice grew even lower. It's just. My subordinates discovered that, beside Lady Chen, currently, there is often a gallant man accompanying her. According to reports from several of our spies, that man seems to be the heir of the Prince of Jinnan who just returned from the south, General Wei Yuan, Xiao Linan. They go everywhere together, inseparable on the streets of Jiangnan. Their behavior is extremely intimate. The word intimate was like 2 poisoned daggers, ruthlessly and mercilessly stabbed into Xiao Jingxing's heart. He stood there, stunned, as if struck by lightning. Involuntarily, his mind began to conjure images of the woman who was always gentle and sensible before him, who always looked at him with adoration and love. She was so conservative, such a dignified woman. How could she smile so brightly at another man? How could she care for and be tender with another man, behaving intimately with him? In an instant, a poisonous fire called jealousy, like a volcanic eruption, completely consumed his remaining sanity. She was his wife. She was the woman who had been by his side for 7 years. Who helped him conquer this vast empire. She was his property, belonging to him alone. How could she turn around and love someone else? How could she? Prepare the horses. Immediately, Xiao Jingxing violently pushed the guard away, his eyes as red as blood. Like an enraged, trapped beast, he let out a chilling roar. Order the Imperial Guard to gather 1,000 elite soldiers. I am going south to Jiangnan immediately. He drew the Emperor's sword from his waist and hacked it into the temple's pillar. Wood splinters flew everywhere. His eyes flickered with a murderous madness. She is my empress. In life, she is mine. And in death, her ghost shall be mine. Anyone who dares to touch my woman, I will kill him. I will execute his entire clan. I will kill him. Meanwhile, the July sun in Jiangnan was as hot as fire, but in the backyard of the old Chen estate, it was serene and cool. A century-old wisteria vine, like a massive purple waterfall, poured down from the trellis. Fragments of sunlight filtered through the leaves, casting mottled shadows that perfectly blocked the afternoon heat. A gentle breeze blew, carrying the scent of wisteria. I was leaning lazily back in a rattan chair covered with a bamboo mat. In my hands was a Suzhou embroidery frame I had just started, using multicolored silk threads. With my head down, I was focused on embroidering a lifelike butterfly. Wanlian, open your mouth. Xiao Linen, wearing a comfortable set of short silk clothes, had pulled up a small stool and was sitting naturally by my side. He held a small white jade bowl, containing freshly picked tangerines that had just been chilled in well water. His large, well-defined hands were now extremely patient, peeling the skin and even using a bamboo pick to remove all the white pith, fearing that a hint of bitterness would ruin the taste. Once he had half peeled, he held the translucent fruit and gently brought it to my lips. I stopped my work, looked up, and met his deep, smiling eyes. I gave him a gentle smile, without any hesitation, and naturally took the piece of tangerine into my mouth. The cool, sweet and sour juice burst in my mouth. It not only took away the summer heat, but also sweetened my heart. Xiao Linen pulled his hand back, watching my satisfied expression. His eyes were overflowing with nothing but unreserved indulgence and love. On this quiet afternoon, sitting next to someone whose heart and eyes were full of me, the breeze was gentle. This sense of ease and safety, where no guard was needed, and no schemes were required, was something I hadn't even dared to dream of during those 5 years in Changle Palace. Is it good? He asked softly, his voice low and pleasant. Very sweet. I nodded, set down my embroidery frame, and reached into the jade bowl for the other half of the peeled tangerine. Leaning forward, I naturally fed it to him. You try some too. Xiao Linen's mouth widened into a broad grin, just as he was about to eat it. In this warm, quiet moment, where time seemed to stand still, bang! The heavy vermilion gate of the backyard was violently and crudely kicked open from the outside with destructive force. The sturdy door bolt snapped in two. The wooden door slammed against the wall with a deafening crash. Xiao Jingxing was dressed in plain clothes, looking travel-worn, yet he couldn't hide the aura of power and oppression that came from years of being a ruler. His hair was a bit messy, strands of it stuck to his forehead with sweat. There were dark circles under his eyes. His lips were cracked, and he had lost a lot of weight. He had clearly gone without sleep, rushing day and night to reach Jiangnan. He stood at the door like a god of death, panting heavily. His bloodshot eyes were fixed like a hungry wolf's, staring fiercely at the hands of Xiao Linen and me, which were overlapping as we fed each other. He had never seen Chen Wanlian look so playful and relaxed. In the palace, she was always dignified, restrained, and reverent toward the emperor. This kind of intimate interaction that only exists between a loving husband and wife, this atmosphere that completely excluded him, was currently slicing through his heart like 1,000 cuts. Wanlian, Xiao Jingxing roared, his voice terrifyingly hoarse. His eyes were bloodshot. He moved like a mad bull, trying to rush over and grab me. Who dares to trespass into the Chen estate? Xiao Linen's reaction was lightning fast. Almost at the exact same moment the door was kicked. The instant Xiao Jingxing spoke, he had already sprung from his stool. Like a nimble leopard, his tall frame slid over, in a protective stance, perfectly shielding me behind his broad back. Then, accompanied by a sharp, metallic ring, the flexible sword Xiao Linen always wore was unsheathed in an instant. The cold glint of the blade reflected a blinding light in the sun. A murderous intent so thick it was almost tangible erupted from Xiao Linen's body. Although Xiao Linen was only wearing ordinary tunic clothes today, he was, after all, a general who had survived the hell of the south, crawling out from piles of corpses to lead tens of thousands of troops. The iron-blooded aura he had forged through countless life and death battles, once released, instantly overpowered Xiao Jingxing's so-called imperial majesty. Xiao Jingxing was forced to a halt by this terrifying pressure, his breath hitching. But then, the rage of being challenged by a subject completely overcame his fear. He became even more furious. Xiao Linen, how dare you? Xiao Jingxing pointed at Xiao Linen's nose, his eyes spitting fire. The emperor's dignity was not to be violated. This is my woman. The Empress of Daliang. You dare point a sword at me? Are you trying to rebel? Standing behind Xiao Linen's broad, solid silhouette, feeling his tensed muscles and protective stance, I felt incredibly at peace. I slowly peered out from behind him. When I saw that face that once haunted my dreams, but now felt completely alien, the calm, happy smile on my face receded like a tide, vanishing in an instant. Only a cold, icy gaze remained. This gentleman breaks into a private home in broad daylight and speaks such nonsense. What are your intentions? I looked at him, my voice as calm as if I were looking at a meddling, insane stranger. Xiao Jingxing's eyes widened in disbelief, as if he no longer recognized me. He saw the stagnant coldness in my eyes and felt a piercing pain. Wanlian, it's me, Jingxing. I am your husband. How can you look at me with the eyes of an enemy? Are you still angry with me? I was deceived by Yun Jingxian. I know I was wrong. I've come to take you home, he explained urgently, trying to bypass Xiao Linen, who stood like a tower in front of him, reaching out to grab my sleeve. Unexpectedly, Xiao Linen didn't give him a chance to get close. He raised his hand, channeling his internal energy, and delivered a merciless strike right into Xiao Jingxing's chest. Xiao Linen's voice sounded like it was squeezed through his teeth, carrying a cold warning. Xiao Linen, that strike was a genuine military technique, delivered without any mercy. Xiao Jingxing was already physically depleted from his long journey and emotional distress. He was weak to the core. He was actually pushed back several steps by that single strike. Stumbling, he nearly fell into the mud of the courtyard in a pathetic heap. You dare strike me? You traitor! His path was blocked. His chest was in immense pain, and more importantly, he felt he had lost face. In front of the woman he loved, he cursed in shame and anger. Sir, I think you have the wrong person. I stepped out from behind Xiao Linen and stood side by side with him. I tilted my chin up slightly, my gaze calm, yet firm, staring directly at Xiao Jingxing's angry and distorted face. I spoke slowly, every word crystal clear. My husband's name is Xiao Linen. He is not far away. He is right here, standing by my side. Xiao Jingxing trembled violently at those words, as if struck by a bolt from the blue. He took a step back in disbelief, his face turning as pale as paper, completely devoid of blood. As for the Jingxing you speak of, I paused, a mockingly cold smile, and a sense of relief crossing my lips. I looked at him, at that face drained of life by despair. To me, he died long ago. 6 months ago. The moment that divorce letter was signed, and the moment you forced me to surrender the 9 Peaks token, that Jingxing died completely in my heart. I took a deep breath, burying that decayed past forever. The grass on his grave would probably be 3 feet high by now. After saying this, I didn't let my gaze linger on Xiao Jingxing's pained and distorted face for even a single second more. I turned around, and right in front of Xiao Jingxing, I naturally picked up from the bowl on the table a segment of an orange that Xiao Linen had just peeled and cleaned of its white pith for me. I turned to look at Xiao Linen, my eyes instantly becoming as soft as water. I stood on my tiptoes and personally fed the orange segment into Xiao Linen's mouth. With a beaming smile, I said, "Husband, this orange is so sweet. Hurry and eat." Xiao Linen cooperatively lowered his head, taking the orange from my fingertips. His Adam's apple bobbed as he swallowed it. He raised an eyebrow, his passionate eyes filled with a sense of extreme provocation. As if declaring his sovereignty, he cast a deep glance at the nearby and thunderstruck Xiao Jingxing. I patted the back of Xiao Linen's hand and intentionally raised my voice, saying with clear implication, "Once you're done eating, remember to spit the seeds far away. Our newly cleaned courtyard mustn't be dirted by things left behind by some filthy stray cats or dogs. Don't let them soil our home." Xiao Jingxing stood there, watching our inseparable and affectionate display, hearing my pointed accusations and words that pierced his heart. He felt the world spinning around him. A painful wail escaped his throat, as if all the blood had been drained from his body. He was at the height of despair. Xiao Jingxing refused to give up. Like a man possessed, he stayed in the long bluestone alley outside the old mansion for 3 full days and nights. During these 3 days, the weather in Jiangnan was extremely unusual. It poured with rain. Wild winds carried raindrops as large as beans, mercilessly lashing against anyone outside. Regardless of his imperial dignity, like a homeless beggar, he knelt bolt upright outside our tightly closed gates, letting the icy storm wash over his thin frame again and again. His clothes were soaked through, and his hair was plastered to his scalp in a wretched mess. The emperor who once sat high in the golden throne hall, able to decide the lives of tens of thousands with a word, was now, in a Jiangnan autumn rain, humbled into the very dust. Passers-by, whether scholars carrying oil paper umbrellas, or porters wearing straw raincoats, all pointed and whispered at this strange man kneeling at the gate of a wealthy family. "Oh my, where did this madman come from? What is he doing kneeling here in this heavy rain?" I heard he's a heartless man seeking forgiveness. From the eldest daughter of the Chen family. TSK, how devoted. He's been kneeling for 3 days and won't leave. They thought it was an affecting scene. Of a prodigal son returning. Unaware of the deep-seated blood feud within. Only I, standing behind the attic window. Watching that swaying figure in the downpour. With cold eyes. Knew very well in my heart. This wasn't some soul-stirring devotion. This was just a dictator accustomed. To controlling everything. Suffering from the resentment and possessiveness. That came after losing his most useful tool. On the morning of the 4th day. The rain stopped. Xiao Linan and I. Prepared to set off to inspect our businesses in Jiangbei. When we arrived at the pier. Xiao Jingxing rushed out from somewhere. And blocked our path. Wanlian, don't go. In front of hundreds of people at the pier. The dignified emperor of Daliang. Cast aside all dignity and fell. To his knees before me with a thud. He reached out to grab the hem of my skirt. But Xiao Linan blocked him. Wanlian, come back with me. I know I was wrong. I truly know I was wrong. Xiao Jingxing pleaded through tears. His words incoherent. Yun Jingxian has already been deposed by me. And thrown into the cold palace. The position of empress is vacant. As long as you come back with me. You will still be the empress. No. I will empty the entire harem. And favor only you. The empire. And the 9 Peaks token. I'll give it all to you. All of it. Please, don't leave me. He humbly offered up what he considered the most precious things. Attempting to trade them for one look back. The crowd was in an uproar. I looked at him quietly. At this man who had once sworn to protect me for a lifetime. At this moment, I only felt disgust. Xiao Jingxing, I finally spoke, the one I loved. Was the young boy who, in the snow, would rather freeze to death himself just to warm my hands. But that boy died long ago in his lust for power. Died in your hypocrisy and calculations. The you of now is selfish, cowardly, and incompetent. You make me sick. Xiao Jingxing trembled violently. The last flicker of light in his eyes completely extinguished. Belated affection is worth less than weeds. I spoke these words coldly. Xiao Linan, I turned and called. Xiao Linan stepped forward and removed his cloak, tenderly draping it over my shoulders and tying the laces for me. Let's go, husband. I took Xiao Linan's arm, never looking back at the kneeling Xiao Jingxing, and stepped onto the large ship. The sails were raised. The horn sounded long and clear. The great ship cut through the river and slowly sailed away from the shore. Xiao Jingxing knelt on the muddy bank, watching the ship grow further and further away, watching my silhouette disappear where the sky and water met. He opened his mouth, and a mouthful of fresh blood sprayed out, yet he could make no sound. He finally understood that some turnarounds last a lifetime, and some people, once lost, can never be found again. 3 years later, Yun Jingxian went mad in the cold palace. Every day she screamed that she was the empress, eventually falling into a dry well and dying. Xiao Jingxing fell ill from accumulated grief, beyond the help of medicine. On a snowy winter night, he lay in Changle Palace, clutching a lock of my hair tightly in his hand. He breathed his last in endless regret. When he died, his eyes were still fixed in the direction of Jiangnan. Meanwhile, in Jiangnan, the misty rain was gentle, and the years were peaceful. The sounds of a child's tender reading came from the Chen courtyard. In Jiangnan, lotus can be picked. The lotus leaves are so lush. I held my toddler daughter, teaching her to recite poetry. The courtyard gate was pushed open. Xiao Linan was carrying 2 jars of freshly brewed osmanthus wine, and a lively, jumping perch. My lady, the fish is fresh today. I'll make you fish soup tonight. The sun set in the west, and kitchen smoke curled up. I have someone to ask if my porridge is warm, and someone to stand with me, at dusk. This is the life I wanted.